Hey Clark, how's it
Hey
going?
Nate. Good. How you doing?
I'm well.
Good. Did you change the appointment just for this week, the time?
Uh, no, I didn't change the time. Are you because is it because of the daylight saving thing?
I don't know. I don't think daylight savings hasn't happened, but it was weird because I didn't get a notification, and then like it was like 12:15, and I was like, wait, I'm late to the meeting. And then I went in and I was on my computer, so I just hadn't gotten a call. I was like, what's going on? And then I saw it, and it said 1 instead of 12. Is it the same time for you?
Well, because I think in Belgrade we just lost 1 hour, so
Oh,
I
okay.
think that might be why. Yeah,
It's totally fine. I'm working all day on this stuff, so I just was like kind of thrown off. So it'll
yeah.
probably be at 1, and then we'll lose. I think this weekend it'll go to that. So yeah, okay.
Halloween
Um,
is coming. Do you have any plan?
what was that?
Halloween is coming. Do you have any
Yeah,
plan?
not too many plans. Not any plans. Just with the whole COVID, there's like a huge spike going on. So I'm not sure, but I just got a DJ gig the following weekend, which is kind of exciting. So that should be cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, been making some pretty good progress on this week. I think what's been nice is kind of the repetition with some of like the building the applications, like between the Blogly, the adoption agency, the cupcakes, and then the Flask feedback. I kind of feels like it was good that it seems like the videos are really showing you how to do it, and that's been really helpful. So I feel like it's making a little more sense.
Good,
Um,
good. I would definitely
uh,
say that Springboard has done a good job in like providing good quality tutorials.
yeah, things that weren't in the tutorial, but lately it's been like right on, which is great. Um, so it's been really helpful, and I feel like maybe I'm also just starting to grasp the concepts a little better. One thing I just had like a question. I'm pretty sure I understand this, but I'd like to make sure that I do. I'm just going to open this models.py file. I'm going to share my screen with you too. Let's see.
Sure.
Let me know if it's working.
Yep, I can see your
Okay,
screen.
cool. So it kind of has to do with this relationship. So um, so this is a one user to many feedbacks, which is basically posts, right? So I think it makes sense to call this feedbacks, right? But then the back ref should be user. So if you were calling feedbacks dot user, or would you be calling feedback with capital F dot user?
Um, I believe that for naming the class, it should just be like singular.
Yeah, and that's what I have here. Um, but in this case, like you're saying, like if you want to see all of the posts from this user, you're going to call that by, well, actually, it'd be the instance of the user, right? So it'd be like user lowercase dot feedbacks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that makes sense. Now, if we're going the other direction, we made it. I guess this would be like, we wouldn't really be making an instance of feedback and then seeing, well, I guess, yeah, so if we made an instance of feedback, it would be feedback, let's call it lowercase, be feedback dot user. And that would bring the user for that feedback, that specific instance, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I guess that makes sense. So if this was to users, then you would call it. You would find the instance of feedback, which would then be like, can be any name, but let's say it's lowercase feedback. That's been pretty standard. Feedback dot users would still return just one user that created that. This is just a naming. This is just what it's going to be named.
Exactly.
So it doesn't really matter, but this doesn't really make any sense, users, unless it was a many-to-many relationship.
Yeah, yeah. That is a good point. And so like the namings, it's really important in this case because, like you point out, like the singular and plural, it can kind of screw things up if you were trying to like refer one thing to a multiple thing when the noun is suggesting it's a multiple thing. So
right, exactly. Okay, yeah, I was just and this cascade all delete orphan. Is this going to work in both directions?
yes.
For deleting. So that means if I found a specific, well, actually, I guess it's a one-to-many. So if you just delete feedback, it's not going to delete the user because that wouldn't make any sense.
No, no. So if you declare cascades inside the user, it's going so when you delete the user, it's going to cascade downwards to feedbacks.
So even though, like, I guess my question is, what if I put this? What if we did the opposite? Because you can do it both ways, right?
Yeah.
But then it would be a little different. So it'd be feedback, it'd be user. Right?
Yeah, so in that case, if you delete the feedback, it's going to delete the user.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand this. So that would be, so this would be if you said, okay, I'm going to find this find this one post, and then .user, and then I'm going to delete it. That would actually delete the user because of it's going the other direction.
Yep.
I guess, isn't it the same though, like in terms of the backref? Because couldn't you also do, just confused, user dot, so this will still have user dot feedbacks on it. What I'm saying is if we delete, if this is commented out. Because that would be the backref for this, right?
Yep.
So it is important the direction the cascade's going.
Yes. I mean,
because if you did, yeah, go ahead.
You could do that in both places, but then it doesn't make any sense because then if it pretty much means that if you delete the user, it's going to delete the feedback, and if you delete the feedback, it's going to delete the user. So it really depends on what is your like the model that you are going to model, like which direction is more important when you try to delete the data, like does it need to cascade in this direction or the other direction? So you need to, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's my question. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to understand why you wouldn't put it on this one. I've been kind of following previous models, like to not mess it up. But does this cascade all delete orphan? Which does this refer to? This or this? Or both?
It's referring to the user backref. It's referring to the feedbacks because backref means the whichever it's in relationship to.
So this is a separate comma. So this cascade is talking about this or talking about this or both.
Yeah, so this cascade is saying that if you delete a user, it's cascading to the feedbacks.
Okay. And then in this case, it's if you delete a feedback, it's cascading to the user?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the opposite, though.
The opposite, yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand why it's... So that means... So, okay, in this situation, the cascade is actually referring to this. So if you delete... Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you delete the feedback, it's going to cascade into the user.
No, well, this one. It's not though, right? You delete feedbacks, it'll cascade into the user.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to this one, if you delete user, it'll cascade into the feedbacks, which is what you want.
Yeah.
So the cascade is actually referring to this, whatever is here.
Yes. It's like
Does that make sense?
It's like cascading to the other counterpart.
Right. Oh, okay. So you're saying this is linked to the user, but it's saying delete the orphan. So delete the counterpart. And the counterpart to this is this. As opposed to this is saying delete the counterpart to the feed. A little more sense. Still kind of confusing. What did you want to go over some?
Yes. So congratulations on passing the SQL design assignments. The things that we're gonna talk about is just like for improvements.
Okay.
If you open up I'm trying to look here. If you open up actually your Craigslist, soccer leagues, and medical SQL diagrams, they were properly formatted, and you have good relationships for all of them. So I actually have no points to add. But the points I want to add is if you look at
I think you just lost. Can I hear you? It just went out for a second.
Oh, if you look at the music SQL file,
Mm-hmm.
give me 1 sec. I'm just opening up the file. Right, so it's good that you have artists per songs. What about albums?
Sure. I mean, there's there could be an albums table, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
I guess I just.
You mean like one albums to many songs?
Yeah, you would have one album to many songs,
okay.
Right?
Yep.
I guess in this case, because there wasn't any repeat albums, so I figured because these are all hit songs, it didn't seem necessary because there's no duplication. But yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, in that case, you'd have an album ID here, I guess, right? And then you'd have an albums with album IDs. I guess the hardest thing this was really challenging for me, this assignment, and I was kind of trying to figure I understand how we're creating a bigger database, but it certainly seems complicated to update this database.
Dude, you know I know, yeah, imagine imagine if you work in big data like BigQuery. So BigQuery, we're talking about terabytes of data, and imagine Google search. There's tons of queries every single day, and that's the amounts of data their data scientists have to work on.
Yeah. So your mic cut out again.
Oh, sorry.
Seemed like maybe when you hit something, or I don't know. Seems okay now. Can you speak?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it just cut out for a second, then it's
okay.
Yeah, no, I just mean for example, in the situation of album, when you're inputting, and maybe this is something I'm missing in how it would work in the real world, but you have to create this table with all of these numbers that match, and you have to get that right.
I know.
It's like, is there something that there's you create software, you create scripts to do this for you?
For I'm just trying to think.
Or does it? Yeah, it just seemed like, wow, this. Yeah, you're creating a table that has relationships, but you have to like manually create every one of these relationships in terms of like this right here. You have to tell it the relationship between the tables.
There is tools that you can use. It's pretty much like those UML diagram that I showed you from last week, where you can create a table and define the fields. So like artists with names, dates of birth, and things like that. And you set up the relationship between the tables, and it's going to generate this SQL query for you automatically. But
Okay.
this exercise is here because you need to learn how behind the scene works
Right.
before you learn to use those like top level design tools. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, like this exercise, this SQL exercise took me like 16 hours instead of like 4. It was a lot of work, and then like your mistakes, but just all these inputs needed to be correct, and all these relationships needed to be correct, and then like figuring this out. But yeah, so I mean, I guess with albums, it just seemed like, isn't there a point where you're just creating more complexity without for just extra work and almost like making it harder to understand? But I mean, I guess you put all the albums as values, and then you'd have a foreign key linking it, and then you'd have like, this would be album 1, this would be album 2, album 3, 4, 5, right? And then you'd have to join them here.
Yeah.
Is this generally like how these should have been tested? This made the most sense to me. Like, I wanted to see everything joined together and see if it was like they were actually working together.
Yes. Yes. This is how you do it. Like when you join the table from one another, it's based on the IDs. Yeah. This is how you
And
do it. Yeah.
and so is this an out, like the outer inner left? So is this an outer join or is this an inner join?
If you only say join, I believe it actually depends on the type of database. So if we are looking at Postgres, let me double check. So Postgres by default, if you do a join statement,
I'm trying to think that the inner join is it's joining only with the characteristics. The outer join is joining everything with that side, and then whatever's on the um, yeah, it's a little confusing.
give me one sec. Type joins. Right. So when you only do a join, it's called the equal join, and it's basically joining two tables based on the primary and the foreign key relationship.
Which is generally what you want, because that's the information you need. Oh, so a full join, like if you had like details in like producer, like date of birth, that would join everything in.
Pretty
right?
much, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not really trying to do that here. I'm just trying to see are these table relationships correct, and that's why I'm just using a regular join. Okay.
Yeah. And then what's the other thing I want to talk about? So the other one is with the outer. So outer space, we have planets, galaxies, suns, moons, solar systems, and right, and planets. Okay. Yeah, so for the suns, would it make more sense if we call them the stars?
Sure.
Yeah, because like suns, it sounds like because there's only one sun in our solar system, but then I'm just trying to think if sun is classified as a.
So I would just have to change it. Yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it would just be here, here, and then probably down here somewhere, stars.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's updated. That
Cool.
makes sense.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. That's all the points I have.
Okay.
Otherwise, good job with the assignments because the other two mentees I have, they were having big trouble with Craigslist, soccer league, and medical data table relationships. It's either they are missing intermediate table, so they don't have the relationship showing, but you got everything going. So I would say you are on top of the database.
Thanks. Well, it was not without effort. I like I said, I remembering that if you have a many-to-many relationship, you need to create a table that just references that has foreign keys for both, right?
Yeah.
That's integer, right? So like that's kind of the key, as opposed to a one-to-many. You're just having a one foreign key relationship inside that table that's linking to the other. But I think that was the biggest thing. I was missing that for a second, and I was like, oh yeah, the roles, like with the movies and the actors, you have to have a separate table. So you actually have to. So once you kind of go over that in your head, you say, okay, if it's one to many, you don't need a separate table. You just need the foreign key reference, or I guess it's just called a reference. You just need to reference the table to the serial ID. And if it's many to many, you have to create a separate table where you're referencing both the IDs. It's a good way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Is there? Do you want to talk about the capstone project? Or
sure.
Should we save that? So,
yeah.
I thought to what we've actually been doing with creating a user and all that was creating a gardening app.
Gardening app. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, once again, there's all of these. There's kind of ones probably like that out there, right? But what I thought would be cool is there's this truffle API where you could grab all this information. It seems like all of this is pretty much there. And then this outdoor planting date and indoor seedling start date for a region. This could be something that maybe would need to be found through something else. But I think that would be cool to tell you when you need to plant for your region. And then the ability to kind of make a list like, okay, these are the plants I have. So you can quickly reference the plants that you've planted. so that you're not always looking up, oh, what's this? And then this I thought would be pretty cool. It could tell you like if there's a frost in the forecast. It could tell you that frost is coming. It could alert you. I don't know if this is too much, but and then this plant disease ID, and then also I thought this would be kind of cool is comparing average rainfall compared to current monthly rainfall, which you could pull from like a weather API.
With the, I'm trying to think. So the garden app, growing conditions, information. So when I go to these gardening app websites, do I just type down the type of plants that I'm planning to plant?
Yeah, so I think it would work two ways. You could just type in and get everything, like tomato, and then you could also create like which would involve kind of creating the user login, which you've just learned. Then you could create like a list. So if you're logged in, you could see the plants that you've added to your list, which would be like your garden. And then you could see all the characteristics. So if later on in the year you're having issues with a certain plant, you could just, everything would be right there.
Okay. And with the weather updates, I guess you also need to require user for their current location, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, is the allow? I mean, this is a web app, right? It's not going to be like an app on a phone. So yeah, you would need to, when you register, you'd need to give people the area code you're in, or the location. My thought was like, this is kind of the first step, is just to get it to search on the API, which shouldn't be too hard. And then the second step would be creating the user login and creating a list, and then from there trying to incorporate this idea if I had time. I don't know how long it's going to take, but
yeah, I would say for the main functionalities, it sounds like you want to, for the core part, you want to allow the user to search for different plants and like give them the information for the nutrients and how to plant it properly. Also the list. But then for the bonus part, it's like once you finish the core functionalities, if you have time, it's like you mentioned, the weather updates and the things below that.
Yeah, and it would also be kind of cool to just like in the app have kind of like the weather coming up, like import from a weather widget or something like that, and then could also have some logic that, okay, if there's a low of 32 or lower, within the next 7-day forecast, send an update like a frost alert or something. But yeah, I was thinking this would be more like bonus.
Bonus, yes, bonus, yeah.
As this one too. So yeah, I think that's the best. The other ideas were these, but I feel like this has been done a lot. There already is better stuff for this. This just seemed pretty doable within like the 2-week time frame.
Don't you think? Do you like gardens a lot?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, veggies and also a lot of flowers too.
Yeah, because this is definitely a good time to have an app like this because of the pandemics and people are locked inside. And I'm pretty sure there's like a huge interest in people want to garden more. And like
Right.
I think there's also a trend where there's a mini gardening going, like where you can buy really small sets of like gardening tools and just put it inside the house.
Right, or like on a patio or something, or on like a balcony if you live in an apartment.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, this is a good idea. Like if you make, I think 2 weeks should be enough. And like if you make it, I would love to use it too.
What was that last thing you said?
So I said this is a good idea, and if you get it working, I would love to use it too.
Oh, right on. Thanks. Yeah, no, I think it's pretty doable. Like looking at the Truffle API, it had most of this information. So I mean, it doesn't like. I feel like from what we've learned and what we just did with the user login, like being able to do all of this, which would be create user.
Yeah.
Then I think that's pretty doable. You know, I mean, because a lot of it, I mean, you're kind of really just taking the whole user login thing's the same as the previous app, so that's pretty easy. And then this is just getting the get request for the type and then pulling the correct resource from the object and filling out a form and going and finding a photo, I guess, or something too.
Sounds good to me, man.
Okay, cool. Right on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, so our time is up.
All right.
All right.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah, good work. So I guess for next week you will be working on the capstone, or
no, I don't think yet. I think I'm just following the study guide, but I think there's some wrap up, and then I think it's into, I forgot what else, whatever's next. I think it's another project, the database DJ project.
okay, the database DJ. Okay, so you got to ace that one, right?
Yeah, it looks like Heroku. Yeah, there's the Twitter clone before it. Capstone is a little further down.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right, man.
Thanks.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.